Hey, you're with Vic Ferrari, and I am going to help you out with your Webers, your 44s, your 40s, whatever you got. I'm going to help you out with the lean pop. Okay? So, when your engine is idling and you're getting that exhaust popping, it's idling like pop, 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 pop. It's not a consistent one. It's an totally inconsistent pop, little baby backfire. That is not electrical. That is a plugged idle jet. If it was electrical, it would most likely be very consistent. It would be boom, 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 boom. It would go every time that plug or that wire or whatever is failing came around on the distributor. So when you are going to clean out your idle circuit, I've watched a ton of videos. Easy Jeezy's got a lot of videos on Delordos and Webers, and he talks about the idle jet being plugged a lot, yet he doesn't talk about where it gets plugged. He just says, look through it, blow it out. Well, my idle jets were clean every time. And I'm not saying he's wrong, he's dead right. But the plug has to be in the idle jet for that to work. There's other instances where the plug gets in other places. And so I did a ton of research, ton of studying on my own, couldn't find anything on the web. And I finally, through everything I did, I figured out where it gets plugged, why it gets plugged, and I want to show you that, which is a little bit more in depth than just saying this is your idle jet, this is your idle adjustment screw, this gets plugged, pull it out, clean it. So we're going to dive in. Ready? Go. First off, you have to understand that this is the bottom of the carburetor, okay? The engine is pulling vacuum, okay? So the engine is drawing a vacuum on this right here, which is your idle mixture outlet. It is pulling two things, air and fuel, that has already been mixed up in the top of the carburetor. People think that this is just an air screw or just a fuel screw. It is not. It is both. All right. When you turn it in, you're going to get lean on fuel and lean on air. When you turn it out, you're going to get more fuel and more air. They're mixed together. This can't separate them, okay? Now, I know I'm going to get guys saying, oh, you're wrong, but I'm going to explain it if you stick with me. So your main idling is running off of this hole here. But when you're setting these up, you have this screw here, which everybody thinks is the idle speed. It's not. But that screw has to be turned usually a quarter turn. But as soon as you do that, you'll notice the butterfly starts to open. Okay? And under the butterfly is 4 holes. You see those 4 holes together? Those are your cruise circuit. So when you're cruising down the road, most of your fuel is now coming from those, and a little bit of fuel is coming from this. Most of your fuel's coming from those. If you open up this thing at all with trying to set your idle speed, you will lose the ability to tune your idle, and then when you take off, this thing will just fall on its face and choke. All right? So, when you get a plugged up idle circuit, a lot of the times it will be in those 4 holes because they're so small, the rocks and dirt can't get through them. So you plug one of those holes and you've just lost a quarter of your cruise fuel, and you've lost enough to go lean on idle because those slightly assist this during your idle. Okay? Now, think about your vacuum. It's pulling vacuum and sucking on this, and it's sucking on those 4 holes when this is slightly touched. Those are connected together. Okay, I'm going to do my best to show you this. So under your idle mixture screw, you've got a O-ring. Make sure that that and that little backing cup is on there, or you're going to be leaning because you're going to suck air past these threads. Now, right here is a little cap. They drilled this hole so that they could get into this valley here and drill those 4 pinholes, because that's the only way they can get in there. Then they cap this. Your vacuum sucks fuel out that tube that I showed you earlier. It also sucks a little bit out of the 4 holes unless you're on cruise. And then it sucks all the way up this. Okay. These are not combined. This and this are separate tubes. So it sucks fuel and air from this point on. Is fuel and air mixed. What mixes it is your idle jet. Okay. So I'm going to pull it out. You see that O-ring? Has to be there or you're going to be lean. All right. So inside this hole, you've got this jet, and this jet sits exactly right there. And you're going to notice that it's got a little groove in it. Okay. That little groove right there is for air to flow around it, and the air is coming in this hole. So as the air flows by it, that little hole and the one on the back side of it get suction against them. And what they do is they start sucking against that little hole there. And that is what controls the amount of fuel. Okay, so that's your idle jet. That is sealed against the carburetor right here where you see this line. It actually metal to metal seals. And this hole here that they've capped because they used a drill bit, it passes down this way, comes across, connects into your main circuit, but it connects below the jet. Okay, so when this is in there, it stops about right here. So this is actually below it. It's not being controlled by that jet at all. And what that is it sucks, and the fuel in your float goes in that hole right there. Now remember I said dirt can get in 2 different ways. The first way is through the top of your carburetor. Okay. Underneath, this is really hard to do with a camera. Underneath all this, okay, first off, dirt can come in through the filter. Somebody put a crummy seal on here because they're using old MP filters that are actually dry and hard. And so they put this on, thought they would cure it. This got to come off. The old dry MP filter is not able to squish because the rubber's hard. And so they tried to cure it with this. Buy a new filter that's nice and soft rubber on top and bottom so that it can seal. And I recommend buying a K&N because the micron filtration is way smaller than MP. I would say it's honestly half the size of MP. So the dirt and dust that can get through the MP filter can't even start to get through the K&N. And no, I don't work for K&N, and they don't pay me. Blah, blah, blah. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. So the dirt can come in and it can get into your float. That's why I have an additional float tube so that it breathes up here, not down there. Any dirt gets in this area gets sucked right in there and fills up your float. But the other spot that dirt can go in is right here. Underneath here is a passageway. And just so you know, if you don't have a good gasket between that top and this carburetor, you'll suck dirt and air right through there. Okay, so underneath this gasket, you'll see an opening. And if I take it off, you'll see the entrance to the idle circuit. That is where your air goes in. So any dirt filling up this or getting in is going to suck right over and go down that. Okay. As it goes, it's going to go in right over here. See it? It's going to cross and come out right there, and it's going to go in right there. Okay? So that is how your air goes into your carburetor idle circuit. Then the air passes in this groove, and as it passes, that hole and that hole get vacuum against them, or as everybody likes to call it, low pressure area. Okay, and over here where I get this line drawn is actually where this jet meets the carburetor and seals, so that the air can't pass that. So on this side of it is air, and as the air passes, it goes down to the idle adjustment screw and to your openings and your 4 holes. But it needs fuel. The way it gets fuel is it sucks on those 2 holes. As the air goes by, it creates suction, which pulls fuel in this end right there, which of course it fell in. So as you can see, it's a very small hole. That is sealed up against there, and your fuel is actually coming in down here at the bottom of your float where all of your dirt is going to settle. So that is your second avenue of air, dirt getting in. It gets in through the float, it gets in through this port here. That thing can just stay in there because it seems to like it. So it gets sucked into this hole, it draws fuel. That fuel gets sucked into your main, but before it goes through the main jets, it turns and comes across here, comes up, and goes into the end of that jet the way it's sitting up there. Now I'm going to use my pen. Picture the hole in the end of my pen, and a rock gets up against it. It's going to seal that hole, and no fuel is going to get beyond that. Okay? Everybody says clean out this jet. But what if the rock is not in the jet? What if the rock is in this tube, and every time you fire your car, it gets drawn up, sticks to the front of it, boom, you go lean, you get no more fuel, you start popping, sputtering, running like crap, but then you shut the engine off and it loses vacuum and drops the rock, goes back down. Okay, so you got a plug, but it's intermittent. So when you pull this out and clean it, you didn't cure anything because the rock's waiting in there for you to put it back in and fire your motor. So the proper way to clean this, I got to hurry up, I'm running out of time, but the proper way to clean this is from the beginning. The dirt's coming in and getting stuck, okay? The dirt comes in from the top, gets stuck on this side, over here, not on this side. So when you clean this, those 4 holes are going to get plugged, but they're going to get plugged on the back side. So you want to shoot your, this is so hard to do with one hand, you want to shoot your carb cleaner at those first. Never shoot it from the top of the carb first. shoot it in those first, and in that second, then blow it out with high pressure air, and blow that out with high pressure air, and then repeat once or twice more, because you're trying to unlodge the dirt lodged going this way. So if you clean from the top and blow, you're just going to force that dirt right into the hole and get it stuck harder. If you blow this way, you're going to blow it back where it came from, and you're going to blow it most likely to the easiest spot, which is going to be out here. Okay, so the dirt's going to be stuck here in those 4 holes, and you're going to blow it out, and it's going to come out there. If it doesn't, it's going to go up and up, and it's going to blow out here. Okay, so your goal is to clean starting at the bottom and work your way up, because the dirt went that way. You want to go back. Then to clean this, you want to put your idle jet screw back in so that it's sealed. You want to leave this one out and plug this one with your finger, and if you can, plug this with your finger. Okay? If you're really talented, open this thing up and plug it all with your finger. Plug all 4 holes, because your goal is to put air going that way. So plug these with your finger and blow your carburetor cleaner in your air that direction, and that will blow through this hole, down through there, and out. Then is all you got to do is clean out your float bowl really well again, and then reassemble your setup. And of course, you know, pull this apart and clean it, but I have found that the blockage has never been in here for me. It's always been somewhere else in the idle circuit, usually either the 4 holes or usually the front of that jet. Okay, so if it can't get through this hole, then it shouldn't be in here. And think about it. These are under a vacuum from out here, so how would dirt go into them and get stuck up against the front when the air is actually flowing this way and out? Okay, so if there's dirt in here, it came from inside the front. Okay, hope that helps.